Good evening, everyone. Lovely to be with you. It's odd how intimate, actually, this format can feel. You know, I'm seeing a lot of faces and I can sort of see everybody equally. You know, it's not like some are closer and some are further. It's rather like the true Dharma. Everything's right here. No distance at all. No distance at all. Am I clearly audible? Could you give me a thumbs up if you think I am? Yes, I don't need to talk louder. Okay. Or is that some saying louder? No, all good. Okay, okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, so we're continuing this dive into koans and the great koan that has always been here, but this current crisis, pandemic, has really sort of thrust it upon us in a more visceral and immediate and unavoidable kind of way. I think I've been talking the last couple of talks about uncertainty, which is something many are feeling at this time. I suppose the question posed by any koan would be whether we should only have been uncertain now. Has there really not been uncertainty previously? There's been a common, illusion really of certainty. Or of not examining uncertainty. Koan practice is a way of bringing uncertainty forward in various different ways, but not just to stress us out. They may be sometimes a stress on the system, so to speak, but they think that's a good thing. But it's not the purpose. The purpose is to find our true home. Our true home is just within uncertainty. Just the other side of it, so to speak. Just inside it. What we normally pull away from, if we go towards it, as the koans invite us to, we find something much better than our habitual contractedness away from uncertainty. This is really what we're perhaps secretly looking for. Perhaps it's what our very existence is a kind of question mark about. The very fact of existing is a kind of uncertainty. Deeply uncertain through and through. And if we go towards that, if we even fall into it, we find something so different from what we expect. Okay, so that was a little sort of prologue to the talk, because I want to be looking at different perspectives on uncertainty that we might have in our more sort of everyday mind, and then come to a little bit more of an examination of the Koan approach to uncertainty with some examples, a couple of examples I want to explore tonight. You know, of course, some people are just having a really hard time right now. There's most tangible uncertainty about where the next month's rent is coming from, and it's inevitably distressing. And I want to encourage people in these situations to, of course, reach out for help wherever possible. And I'd like to encourage those of us who are not in such tightened circumstances to, be on the lookout for where we can offer help. Let's not neglect that. Uncertainty, this period, this strange, uncertain period, others are noticing, has some, a strange beauty to it. The fact that our whole rushing world has come to a pause, taking breath, suddenly slowed down, suddenly stopped. The engines of the capitalist economy, all economy, really, suddenly the brakes put on, and it's very unusual. The freeways are empty. I've been walking a fair bit. I imagine many of you have, riding my bike a bit, and it's sometimes terribly beautiful to be out in the hills, mountains, even in town, on a road that's normally busy and there's nobody, no cars. To be up in the mountains looking down at the freeway, and it's empty, silent. The trees, the crows, it's been windy here, and the crows, flap about like sort of little rags that have got caught in the airstreams, and they love it. And there they are, and everything's quiet beneath them. They probably notice. And up in the high mountains, it's sort of just as it always is, quiet, peaceful, silent, the world of the trees and rocks. But it makes a difference. You look down and the town is silent. It feels different. Somehow it's clearer that the trees world is just that bit more real and always has been, in some sense. So there's also the possibility at this time of a kind of personal retreat that I think some are taking. Of course, just the fact that we're required or encouraged to stay home doesn't automatically mean retreat time. Many of us have got family members home with us, and even if we don't, there's always iPhones to pick up and computer screens to look at. But if you decide to, if you resolve to, this can be a time really of much deepened practice if you want it to be. And you'll feel that the world is somehow supporting you in it more than you might normally feel that. There's a yeah, there's a ready support if you just crank it up a bit. You know, bear in mind one of the great teachers in our Sambo Zen lineage, Viligus Jaeger Roshi, who died just a week or two ago, the great German master. He died in his mid-90s. He set up 3 centers, or 4 even, in the course of his life. The last one of which is still going strong is called Benedictushof. And it is massive. I think I heard that it was the largest retreat center in Europe of any kind. 14,000 people a year going through it. Well, they would have come to a halt as well right now. I don't know what their online situation is like, but Father Viligus, you know, he was a monk, a Benedictine monk as well. The great turning of his life was when he resolved that for 6 years he would sit for 6 hours every day. He did much of that in Kamakura, Japan, studying under Yamada Koan Roshi. 6 hours a day for 6 years. I think you just don't come out of that quite the same. He surely resolved everything he needed to, as many have done through this practice. So, you know, maybe that's rather a high sort of high bar, but maybe, you know, consider ramping it up a bit in this time. See how it feels. You might be surprised how supported you feel, how good it feels. You just, you know, just get on the cushion early morning, sit an hour, get on the cushion in the evening, sit an hour. If you've sunk into samadhi, if you're absorbed by great field of awareness in deep samadhi, stay there. Why not? Soak in it. Let it carry away all the knots and tangles and resistances and difficulties. It knows how to dissolve everything that needs to dissolve. Give it time and it will. Just sit there, basking, soaking, marinating in deep, deep peace. It's very possible. It's a good time to be doing it. One more perspective on this time of uncertainty. I mean, one Zen teacher actually who studies with me recommended a book a few weeks back. I don't know, some of you might know, it's called Anti-Fragile. And it's just the start. I'm going to read the first couple of paragraphs. This is from the prologue. It's a guy called Nassim Taleb. I can't recommend it because I haven't actually read it yet, and it's pretty long. So it might be a while before I finish it. I've read 3 pages, but they were very interesting. So here's what I'm going to share. 1, how to love the wind. Wind extinguishes a candle and energizes fire. Likewise with randomness, uncertainty, chaos. You want to use them, not hide from them. You want to be the fire and wish for the wind. This summarizes this author's non-meek attitude to randomness and uncertainty. We don't want to just survive uncertainty, to just about make it. We want to survive uncertainty, and in addition, like a certain class of Roman Stoics, have the last word. The mission is how to grow, flourish under the unseen, the opaque, and the inexplicable. How? 2, the anti-fragile. Some things benefit from shocks. They thrive and grow when exposed to volatility, randomness, disorder, and stressors. And they love adventure, risk, and uncertainty. Yet in spite of the ubiquity of this phenomenon, there is no word for the exact opposite of fragile. Let us call it anti-fragile. Anti-fragility is beyond resilience. The resilient resists shocks and stays the same. The anti-fragile gets better. This property is behind everything that has changed with time. Evolution, culture, ideas, revolutions, political systems, cultural and economic systems, corporate survival, good recipes, the rise of cities, cultures, equatorial forests, bacterial resistance, even our own existence as a species on this planet. The anti-fragile loves randomness and uncertainty, which means, crucially, also a love of errors. Anti-fragility has a singular property of allowing us to deal with the unknown, to do things without understanding them and do them well. Let me be more aggressive. We are largely better at doing than we are at thinking, thanks to anti-fragility. Okay, so I think we might all agree this is a shock on the system going on right now. This is a random, unexpected shock to our whole collective system. And it is giving us a great opportunity as practitioners. So, what is that opportunity? Well, from the Koan point of view, it's kind of always the same. Infinitely varied and different and growing and flourishing in new ways, but also always the same. It's basically this. This very place is the lotus land. This very body is the Buddha. That's a famous quote from Koan, 17th, 18th century Zen master. Let me sort of translate it. This very place is boundless, complete, perfect, infinitely peaceful and loving. This very body is boundless love. This body that you are, is boundless. Boundless. I mean, really boundless, meaning limitless, meaning it has no upward capacity, it has no ceiling of capacity. Boundless. It also means that in every direction, it reaches out and beyond whatever you can imagine as a frontier, an edge, beyond that, love. Just vast, infinitely powerful, infinitely energetic and energizing love. That's what these words of Koan mean. And he was a powerful and devoted Koan student. Koans were his sort of core training, his core method for guiding others. And it was through the Koans that he discovered what this moment, and I do mean this moment, I mean now. I'm not talking about some hypothetical present moment. And I'm not talking certainly about some moment in the future when you kind of ponder these words or ponder these ideas, and when the conditions are right, I'll really get this together, I'll sit harder, I'll sit intently, and then that glorious sit will happen when I sort of get this. And no, I'm actually talking about this moment now. This is the unbounded, the infinite, the all-pervading, all-inclusive, the only real home. Now, of course, the good thing about a crisis, and by the way, as some of you know, Zen was forged in a series of crises. It's a kind of simplified form of Buddhism. It's a simplified form of the awakening way of Buddhism. It's a, what are the key ingredients? What are the key things you really need? Do you really need 65 practices of mindfulness? Do you really need untold other practices? Do you really need a lot of sutra study? Or do we already have pre-installed now, no preparation, now, all that is needed? Because, this time, actually like every time, is the time for practice. It's the time for sort of preparation, really, for the only preparation there is, which is, what is this life? How do I receive the real gift of this existence now? It can't be in a future time. It can only be now. So what do koans tell us about this? Well, I wanted to pick up, this is what koans are all about. But how do they help us in a little bit more sort of strategic, kind of paint by numbers kind of way? Henry is just telling me this stuff. Give me something I can do and hold on to. Well, yes, up to a point. So here's what we've got. Case 45 from the Book of Equanimity, the Book of Serenity. Here's the koan. It's actually 4 phrases from the Ingaku Sutra. And Ingaku means the perfect awakening of Buddha. So it's basically, and Buddha, means awakened. So it's the perfect awakening of the awakened, is the name of the sutra. So you can see it's all about this awakening, being able to release our contracted hold on who we think we are, on what we think we know, being able to find that, feel it, it becomes clearer, more palpable as we sit and deepen and settle in our sitting. It becomes easier to find where there's contraction with identification, where there's a contraction in the body and around it or in it, there's this sense that that's me. We don't have to make that go away. No, it's better than that, kinder than that. We just have to welcome it and love it. And you can't really do this with your mind. You really have to do it with your heart, or with your heart mind, your shin. In China and Japan, there's the word shin, in Japanese kokoro, heart mind, not actually severing mind and heart, not positing them as two things, heart mind. So we allow the shin, the heart mind, to envelop whatever contraction we find and love it. You learn to love it. You can't really force it. It has to sort of come up by itself, this sense of embrace. It's allowing, and it's more. It's allowing, it's embrace, it's welcoming. Welcome the contraction. Welcome the identification with the contraction. Love the identification with the contraction. Because all it is a wave in the one vastness, the one ocean. It's just another wave. It's part of the whole. Just like this body. This very body is the Buddha, said Hakuin. This very body is what we awaken to when we release the hold. This is what we awaken to. This body, this place, this now. So the title of the sutra is The Awakening of the Awakened, perfectly, sutra. And it's 4 phrases, and I'm actually just going to look at 2. The first is, at all times, you do not raise the delusive mind. That's the quote. At all times, you do not raise the delusive mind. Now, at first, this will seem like a kind of piece of practice advice. Please try not to raise your delusive mind. At all times, please try not to fall into delusion. It would seem to be asking us to try not to fall into delusion. Ordering us, don't fall into delusion, folks. No delusion, please. It would sort of seem to be saying something like that. But then it wouldn't be a koan. Then it would just be practice advice. Koans are never practice advice. They can sometimes seem to be, but on that level, they're not koans. The koan is always inviting us to go through the gateless gate. The gate that is a gate from one side, and once you're through it, it was clearly never a gate. They're inviting us to do that, to step through the gateless gate, to let go of basically all we think we know and find our way into our real home, which we've never been apart from, but we're self-exiles. We're not even really self-exiles, though. That's the point of this line. At all times, you do not raise the delusive mind. This is the radical, simple Buddhism, powerful, simple Buddhism of Zen. At all times, you don't raise the delusive mind. You just don't do it. You think you do, but you don't. When we're caught in delusion, we're not caught in delusion. But we think we are. We're deluded into believing that we're deluded. Okay? I don't know if that's any help, but that's what this line is saying. There is no delusion. There is no delusive mind. You never raise the delusive mind. But that's absurd. I've been training for years, all about not being deluded. Well, the gate is a gate from one side, and it's gateless from the other. On one side, there's a path, and on the other side, there's no path. It's here already. Before a step is taken, we've reached the goal. No. I'm on a path. I'm training. Well, yes, And we sort of must do that. But actually, on another level, no path, no step, no goal. If we could just see the very step we take for what it really is, we understand there's nowhere to go. When that great master, Gensha, despondent, cast down, crestfallen, feeling like he didn't have what it took to make it in Zen. And he gave up and put on his pack and little traveling wooden case and went off up the mountain, away from the monastery. He stumped his toe on a rock. Famous story. Nasty toe stump. Big, major toe stump. Major shock to the system, actually. Very bad and very painful. And in that moment, that sudden pain, that sudden shock, it just blew away his world. Blew it away. And he went back to his master. Said, Bodhidharma never came from the West. Meaning, Bodhidharma never went anywhere. He never went from India to China. He never brought Zen from India to China. This awakening thing, you can't go anywhere in it. It's always here. It's always been here. Nobody ever went anywhere in it. No step was ever taken. So then I want to look at the third line of this koan, 4 phrases from the Perfect Awakening of the Awakened Sutra. Dwelling in the delusory state of mind, you do not add understanding. So, living in delusion, you don't add understanding. Well, that's just as painfully obscure as the first line, Henry. What am I supposed to take from that? Well, what's understanding? What is understanding? What is there to understand? And who is there to understand? Look, when we find this one now, boundless now, understanding has no place in it. It doesn't come there. It's not there. There's certainly no need for understanding. Understanding pertains to something else, really. And it too has always been an illusion. If we let go of all our efforts to know and understand and allow ourselves to just relax and dissolve and expand, really, into now, we find that somehow all is answered. And there isn't room for something we'd call understanding. And from this perspective, it's clear that there really isn't understanding. Not really. It's all fine. And, that doesn't mean that, doesn't mean there aren't problems and suffering and distress and a lot of emotional distress and physical, material distress that is in this world. It means that we approach all difficulties from a very different perspective, from one where our hearts are fully engaged out of this broad, boundless space of love, not out of a contracted place. At all times, you do not raise the delusive mind. No. Seems so, maybe, but no. Dwelling in the delusory state of mind, you don't add understanding. No. No understanding to be added. Just this. Just this. And that's not to say that we're checking out, blissing out, neglecting our part in the world and not being helpful. No. We're coming toward the world from a really different place, from a place of boundless love. Now, some of you, I know actually a fair number of you, sorry, I haven't really scrolled, I'm just going to have a little look, see if I recognize people. Oh, yes, of course, lovely to see everybody. Thank you. Oh, wow. People from all over. Okay, thank you, thank you. It's so lovely to see many. Well, actually, there's a lot of you who don't have your videos on. That's fine, but I see your names, and that's just great. Thank you, thank you. Lots of people. Thank you for coming, everybody. Now, but I want to say, some of you aren't working on koans in the Book of Serenity. Some of you aren't working on koans at all and don't want to and never will. That's fine. And some of you are working on this famous early koan, Moon. So I thought I would just say a word about Moon in conclusion, as that's the one that sort of probably more of you have than any other, so to speak, that you're sitting with. Let me, because it's really directly relevant to what I've been saying. It's a famous little story. The monk asks, does a dog have Buddha nature? Does a dog have this awakened nature? And the master, Joshu or Jiao Zhou, answers, Mu. Mu literally means not. But let me just see if we can come at this in a little bit in a certain kind of way. The point is, I think you'll get from what I've been saying, that the question, does a dog have Buddha nature? Well, maybe you can sense from what I've been saying what this Buddha nature means. Oh, let's call it awakening. Does a dog have awakening? It's kind of a messed up question, because this now is boundless. There's nothing it doesn't include. There's nothing that it is not. It is all inclusive this. It has no time and all time. It has no distance and all distance. So you really, to ask, does a dog have the awakened nature? It's exactly the same as, do I have it? And in a sense, actually, the answer is no. The I that we think we are is the only thing that prevents it being clear. The only thing that prevents boundless awakened now from being clear is I, the contraction into I. As soon as that's enveloped and loved and released, it's clear. It's clear what Buddha nature is and where it is. It's everywhere. It's all pervasive. It can't not be. So in a sense, I actually don't have it. I'm obscuring it, occluding it. But in another sense, that's wrong. Everything has it. I am it. Even my contracted condition where I don't see it, even that is it. So when Joshu's asked this question, he just says, move. He doesn't want to really engage with yes or no. His move is his actual answer. Meaning, he can't answer the question in the way the monk is thinking about it. Instead, all he can do is share, try to share. From his side, share what's already clear. One boundless now. Move. So his move is in that moment his way of presenting. This very place is the lotus lab. This very body is the Buddha. In other words, this very move, this little syllable itself is boundlessly awake. Don't be thinking about having or have not. Dog, Buddha nature, me, you. Come, find this one boundless now. So join it. I mean, realize you're already fully it. It's like we can't really get it on the level that we might try to. We can't really get it with the mind that we're already using to try to sort things out in life. It's a matter more of releasing that mind, that sort of coagulation around how we approach life, sort of set in our ways about I and the world. It's really about sort of letting that become a bit clearer, and then, I mean, clearer to us, clearer in our awareness, and then letting it dissolve by being embraced, enveloped, and gradually it dissolves more, and then suddenly there's a rend in its apparent surface tenacity, sudden rend, and we see what move really is. Okay, so friends, please enjoy your sitting. Find how to enjoy it. It is to be enjoyed. Sitting is the gate of ease and joy. How do we do that? Well, we do our practice, our awareness practice, being aware of what's going on. We allow things to get simpler. We allow everything to be welcome. we welcome everything, especially the things that we're not welcoming. Whatever we're not welcoming, that's our great teacher. Assume that the very thing you think you least want in your practice is the most valuable thing for you in the whole universe. Assume that it is actually Joshu or Buddha coming to visit you and trying to get in. And you're saying, no, this can't be right. I don't want this thing. This thing must be wrong. Assume it's the very thing you most need and that loves you more than anything else. Love trying to get in and you're sure it's the wrong thing. Love's the other way. No, wrong. Let it in. Whatever it is, find it, however awkward and uncomfortable and wrong it feels, let it in. Let it show you. Okay, well, it is a little strange talking like this. I mean, without being in the room with everybody. I mean, I hope it's some help. It's very hard for me to tell really whether you're all just, if you don't like it, I assume you'd just disappear. Or you would fall asleep maybe, which would be a very good result. I consider that a fine result if it helps you relax and fall asleep. But I just hope, that, I don't know, I feel I'm talking a little differently, but that's because you're all so close, you're 2 feet away from me. So it's, it's a different sort of vibe trying to give a talk in these conditions. And I hope you can tell that I'm trying to speak as directly as I can from my experience, from my heart. Because the whole point of Zen, as far as I'm concerned, is opening up our hearts on different levels. There's the initial level from sort of, just learning how to love our troubled psychology, or our fairly healthy psychology, learning how to love it. That level. There's for some opening up to the possibility that somehow there's help from beyond. There's love that can come in that's not so material, but it's real. It's part of our psychic makeup, opening up to that love. Then there's the third level. This is where it gets a bit confusing, by the way. There are teachers who teach this third level, let me call it, witness consciousness, is finding non-dual awareness. Now, in our Zen world, that is something we come to through samadhi, where we find our border gets bigger and bigger and bigger, more and more wide, and then the border vanishes, and there's a boundless awareness. This is in the jhana practices, actually. Some of you know about that, and it's getting wider and wider and wider, more and more inclusive in our awareness. But there's still a witness. There's still a sense, basically, of me, but it's a beautiful me that's been here forever, and it's lovely, and it's a very important thing. And it's arguable that Zen may not emphasize that quite as much as it might. Maybe it's a complex issue. But then there's the fourth level, which is what these koans are all about, the level of kensho, sudden, deep awakening, where really our whole construction of self and world has at least a momentary collapse. That's what Mu can bring us to. It can also actually bring us to deep, expanded states of mind on that third level. By the way, that's the level of TN, transcendental meditation, what they call transcending. What they call transcending is what Zen would call a deep samadhi state, third level, expanded mind, a sense of awareness with no content. Fine, very good, but it's not actually the real, true, total liberation, where basically self is just boom, gone. And it's not exactly also the deep kensho where world vanishes. It's clear that It's not that we've got into a deep state of mind where things aren't so sort of palpable and immediately present. It's not that. It's they're right here and they're gone. Self even, right here, utterly gone. It's clear that the whole thing, actually I don't want to say it for next time maybe, but it's something about the whole thing becomes totally clear. Totally clear. And of course, we keep practicing after that because we have to, more than ever, work to help in this world in whatever ways are appropriate. It's not that sort of now I'm done, I'm going to just bliss out for eternity. No. Now we're here, embodied, somehow embodied, even though it's all boundlessly gone, and we help. There's just sort of nothing else to do. And we must do it the best we can, each of us in our own ways. And by the way, that process happens sort of in miniature versions all the way along the path. It's not like just wait till, awakening and then you start helping. No. All the way along, there's lots of sort of small realizations, small releases as we move down the path. Well, I'm going to stop. Thank you very, very much for coming to this, our virtual Zendo. I want to thank all the people who've worked incredibly hard to make this virtual Zendo exist, and I won't name everybody, but you know who you are. There's been an extraordinary amount of work going on behind the scenes at Mountain Cloud. Well, I say at Mountain Cloud in virtual, to make this possible. And, I think, as Sarah was saying, we've got all these sits happening, various events coming up, April 12th, in addition to Sunday morning sits with a talk and Q&A sometimes. And by the way, good news is that there'll be other teachers coming on these Thursday nights down the line. And so you're going to get some fantastic, much deeper, clearer, greater teachers talking to you like I am now in upcoming weeks. Thank you.